Welcome everybody, Brady from BGWX, and we are going live to break down, well, certainly what Model Guidance suggests now is interesting, but if you watched last video or any my tweets discussing this over the past several days, there's always been an opportunity for some tricks up its sleeve in terms of what the final result will be. So we're going to break it down and maybe give a few thoughts for the rest of next week and beyond as well. So we'll get started here in a second while we let people, whoever is up, filter in. Let's see. All right. Do that. Welcome, Michael. And then I gotta put this link out to X. Alrighty. We'll get going here in a second. And Michael, I don't take it for granted at all. I know who's consistently in the comments of my videos. I know a lot of time who's liking, even though it doesn't tell me. I know who shows up consistently in the chat and the live streams. I know who likes my posts on X most consistently. Actually, I don't always know that, but I'm not constantly checking the likes. But anytime you put out a tweet and you see who likes it right away, you can kind of see that. So I don't take it for granted for sure. All right. All right. All right. Let's sorry, I was watching The Mandalorian right before this. I'm on a Star Wars kick right now. And let's see, what did I get through? Episode 1, 2, the Clone Wars full show, episode 3, Star Wars Rebels the full show, and then 4, 5, 6. And then this is over the course of the past few weeks. And then now we're on The Mandalorian. And I've yet to decide if I'm going to watch the sequel trilogy or not because, well, you know what Disney's own little kick they did to that. So, but that's my side geekness. Arthur, I tonight will be under 5 hours. Absolutely, tonight will not be a 5. We're not streaming until daylight. I can tell you that. We'll go 1 to 2 hours probably. But thank you for coming in, Arthur. I appreciate it. I'm not getting as better as I would like to, but I am getting more sleep. lately because there have been no 1 to 2 foot snowstorms. Luckily, well, actually, I should say there was in the North Shore technically, nearly a foot and a half of snow last weekend, but um, no major widespread 1 to 2 foot snowstorms. So we haven't had that trouble for sleep. So that makes you that helps a little bit. I'm sure slowly helps the recovery process a little bit, but um, yeah. But let's get a. Actually, let's go to satellite. Let's go to satellite first. And show me let me get it. All right, global. So we're gonna go there. Yeah. And then, let's see. How does upper level compare to mid level? It's good enough. All right, so here's our current satellite loop. As you see, in pretty explosive storm, to be honest, going on over the central and southwest U.S. right now. That is our southern stream energy. Um, and right now, we are just holding on to the cold air right along here. That's about where we're holding on to the cold air right now. So basically, south of here, it's going to be a bit difficult to be able to tap into anything, so to say, in terms of snow sorry, I had a Sammy sprinkler lisp right there, but it's going to be difficult to tap into much. Pretty much, I would say south of right about there. Looking at satellite right now, that is probably this is where your best cold air remains. Not anything crazy, but enough to maybe make something crazy happen. So keep that in mind. But what you'll also notice is here is your northern stream. You have this, hello CX fan, you have this Pacific gyre out here, as you can see in the, ooh, no me gusta. Out here, towards the Pacific Northwest and in the Northeast Pacific Ocean, hence also uh, a very poorly sampled area, as you know we discussed um, uh, uh, 2 nights ago. I had nothing left to give by the point where I thought about making a video last night, and I also didn't have really many updated thoughts. So I was like, you know what, let's just try to make sure we get some sleep, and we decided to not produce a video. So I apologize for that, but we prioritized the health last night, and I didn't have any really more updated thoughts compared to what I had the previous night, and there was no crazy stuff on model guidance to go off of, so we just said, you know what, we'll leave it there. But we did say the night before, poorly sampled area, very poorly sampled area. So and calls being made over the past 1 to 2 days, I'm sure of, even though I know just based on the amount of people telling me that's the case, more so than me, seeing them. At this point, I have so much of Twitter muted and not as much blocked, some blocked, but muted that I don't see it. Why are we doing that? Let's not do that. It's been doing that more on the fritz lately, so don't mind if you do see that. Let's see if I can. No, I don't want to open it, but I would love to take that away. It's been doing that more lately, so if you do see that screen pop in and out for a second, don't mind it. Um, at some point, we're going to upgrade the Mac here, hopefully over the next several months to a year. Hopefully by next winter we are upgraded from the Mac. But everybody knows that this has been the OG streaming tool. Actually, the OG streaming tool was the phone and the iPad. Anybody that has been long enough here really knows that that's how it originated. Celtic Supreme, how are you doing? I forgot to say hi to you as well. And Twisted, you don't need an introduction. Uh, Here is your northern stream, and here's your southern stream. These two pieces, you already take a look, very close in proximity to together. So, for anybody thinking that there isn't going to be at least something, I find that hard to believe at this point. I think we're definitely going to see some sort of stream interaction here that promotes precipitation on the northern fringe in the form of snow, regardless of how marginal the temperatures is. You know what I like to say? Snow is snow. I don't care how marginal your temperatures is. We're February 14th right now. We're not April 8th. Snow is snow. I don't care if it's a wet snow, whatever. And snow at night in the morning, by the way, for some people. Um, it could be during the day Monday for somewhere like southern New England if they were depending on how much they were getting involved. But if that was the case, then we'd probably be talking about something decent here. Because the more of a latitude gain you have, unless it's an extremely light interaction, the more latitude gain you have with the precipitation shield, there's a better chance the stronger system you have. But that's not an end all be all. Just be aware of that. But here's your southern stream, here's your northern stream. But what we have going on is you can see an ejection of the Pacific Gyre. So you have all this upper level energy getting sent out. And the question is, how does it tap into the southern stream that you can see is not so easily just going to progress northeastward? The reason why we're not looking at some sort of inland runner here, so to say, is you can clearly see the confluence in behind. This is your press, this is your blocking mechanism on the system that you can see that right here. And you can see this is what prevents us from pushing so far northeast. It's also what's the cold air source for the system as well. So hence you have a strong moisture tap, very strong moisture tap. You can see subtropical jet. Infusing moisture on the system. Precipitation is not going to be the lacking part for this. And you have cold air, not the same Arctic air, say as January 25th, but you do have a very notable cold air source on tap that will allow this for some to be in the form of snow at least, but not necessarily all the way down here to the southeast. So I don't really have to apologize, but it is unfortunate for people in the southern Mid-Atlantic and southeast that were hoping for some snow out of this system. Pretty much, you can kind of pinpoint already where snow southeast of here really not going to be all too possible with this system, just based on some of based on precursors of what we see on satellite with the confluence. Now, I'd also think that due to you can see the crown here of the system, suggesting that it's kind of bullying its way through this confluence already. You see that it's the press on this system. This is very much making a pretty solid latitude gain already. The question is, how well does it hold? You can see there's a little bit of leeway potentially for this to dive further southeast, and we're expecting that some, but you already have a very solid crown on this to the north here. And I mean, that's latitude gain you can't take away once you've done it. You can suppress it, but you can't take away what's been done already, so to say. And I'm looking at it the more and more. I don't guarantee a clean full phase right away, but what I do see is two pieces of upper level energy that are already very close to each other and thousands of miles away from the East Coast. It's from where it needs to go, from where it will go. And so keep that in mind as we get closer here, just based on what I'm looking at in satellite, that that likely supports some sort of stream interaction to happen here. Also note, there was your system from a couple days ago. What a beast of a system in the North Atlantic. Boy, have we had some absolute beasts of storms move along here across the North Atlantic this winter. Really, from all the way back into November, we have had some beasts of systems across this area. And just funny enough, we have not had one ride up the coast or along the coast yet. Um, in theory, there will be one this winter that does. Um, Maybe not sustained a ton, but in theory, there will be at least one. Will this be the one? I'm not sure this will be the perfect one, uh, but specifics of that don't exactly matter the most in terms of producing any snowfall with the system. Joe Weather, welcome. So just wanted to open satellite first because I was looking, and I've been looking at satellite a good amount with the system and try to pinpoint what jumps out to me when I look, and well, that's what jumps out. If you don't mind hitting the like, that is very much appreciated. You can also consider subscribing if you feel you want to stay up to date on more content. You can hit the notification bell. That is very helpful, unless it doesn't give you the notification. In that case, I'm sorry, I can't do anything about that. But you can also consider it being a channel member. I do provide some exclusive content for channel members, and especially for major snowstorms. I do try to ask the channel members where you live, and I will try to give you specific numbers, but for totals and stuff like that. But you don't have to be a channel member whatsoever. And if you're wondering how you can support me, you can always super chat, but that is not necessary by any means either. I just want to be a very good YouTuber if I didn't mention it at all. And so I really struggle. Most good YouTubers mention that like every 5 minutes on a stream. I'm lucky if I get it once or twice. So it's pretty much me just enjoying the content, so to say, happily. Not much shameless about it. There's pretty much only shame among it. All right, but let's look at what you've seen on guidance. How does this relate? What have we been seeing on guidance that relates to what we have been talking about? If you notice here, this is even just in the short term. Take a look. Models handling the injection of this northern piece rather poorly. The southern energy also a bit more compact, a bit more put together. As you'll notice, you see this ring swing around like this a little bit more, so to say, on the backside, versus a little bit more progressive in nature. So a slower southern stream actually gives more time for this northern stream that was underestimated by guidance, pretty much except the Euro AI, to come in a little bit sooner. It appears the GFS AI is it appears it's going to have a really tough time. The GFS AI just is not its system. That was one thing I was looking at. I was like, it's very suspicious to have one AI model do this and the other be so far away. And sure enough, now if you go to the GFS AI, you'll see it looks a lot like the GFS and a step away from the Euro AI. Now, one thing I did notice on the Euro AI is that I thought this was going to come a little bit further north than you even saw in the precip shield. Take a look at the stream interaction that could easily get going. It's a little closed off with the stream interaction here. I don't think many realized with the Euro AI, this was so close to being even more. Now, here's a limiting factor on why it's possible. Liam, welcome. It's okay. You don't have to announce your presence. You can just say hi, Liam. Uh, it's like the dude from The Mandalorian watching. I have spoken. But here's one thing where I'd be like, all right, it's going to be difficult to get an all-out major East Coast snowstorm. Not impossible, but here's something that would be difficult, and this would turn out. It's look at the ridge here that's pushing across. That creates a little bit of a more faster progressive flow. That's a little bit of a challenging factor when you have upper level energy that is sliding across in from behind here as well. That could push on the system, make it a little bit more difficult. However, The atmosphere does not care about how progressive or whatever the flow is. If it feels the need, if it feels the need to come together, I'm not necessarily feeling all that better, Joe Weather. I've just been sleeping a little bit more. That's the main difference. But I don't need to go too much into specifics and bore you guys with that. Um, Even though I am human, you all are here to listen about the weather, not my ailments. Um, what I was going to say is the atmosphere does not care about whether or not how progressive the flow is. It does, but it doesn't. If the pieces are ready to come together to stream, they're gonna come together. If you give them enough time, you will get a phase to occur. How how much of a phase? Hard to say. But you're right here. You're one frame away from this probably being probably 1.5 frames away. Probably about 6 to 9 hours out from this being a significant snowstorm, so to say. A significant snowstorm. You're about 1 to 2 frames away. And the thing about this too is, notice you don't see some massive HP here to the north. Your cold air source has to do more with now. I mean, you do have, you do have some high pressure there, but you don't have some crazy high pressure, um, like we did with January 25th, so to say, or was December 26th, 27th? I forget. But my point is, you have cold air, but a little bit marginal with the cold air. You don't have some crazy Arctic cold air. I'm having trouble finding why on some of these runs the precip shield isn't farther north. Oh, Tatum's having a dream in the background. Um, Now, not to say like it needs to go I'm just saying that I think there's more room here for the precip shield to come north, even if the specifics of where the low was didn't. You see how the low pressure here is? I mean, it's rather far off coast, the center of the low, but notice the precip shield because of the way the phase happens. And I'm looking at the location of the upper level energy, having a tough time understanding why this wouldn't even come farther. Because look at where your phase is starting to occur. So you have this initial draw of southern vort energy that gets so wrapped up early on that it does force low pressure to form. However, you have this north stream coming in fast then, and this is what helps enhance your cold air a little bit as well. We'll draw in some more cold air, especially as it moves across from this direction. Take a look. That's moving across, you know, snowpack, cold air across uh, northern the northern U.S. into southern Canada, and you can see the draw how that comes in. That allows it's so very close to something more happening. It's also so very close to being something a little bit less than happening. If we're basing it just on what the models are depicting at this point. And we'll get into what you kind of already have an idea of where I'm leaning towards. But well, we'll get into more of that, just relaying what you see. Because if you notice the models, what stands out is pretty notable North Stream that seems volatile, that can change. A lot of moving pieces. A lot of moving pieces that can change where this North Stream goes. You have a fetch of energy that extends out ahead the main southern vort, and you have a very amplified southern vort, which suggests maybe some severe weather isn't out of the realm of possibility with a southern vort that amped up, pulling in that much of a Pacific warm flow. Certainly seems possible. Certainly seems like that also that you're going to be able to get a push of warm air advection that could allow precip to expand even further north than what even guidance would be able to pick up on ahead of time. Hence, December 26th, 27th, an example of warm air advection pushing, further north, so to say, then, guidance would, uh, surface maps would be able to depict up on, to pick up on or depict. This right here, the GFS, very interesting, first of all, because this is not even the max ceiling of what could happen, so to say. Would not take a lot for this to be more, but also would not take a lot for this to be a little bit less. I used the figurative sense of, we like to say sometimes what happens on the upper levels, it almost doubles the impacts on the surface. This is almost like triples. I'd like to say so figuratively. Very, very fickle process. Let's pull a GIF. See how minor that difference is, really? Really see how minor that is? So, for everyone talking about models being so far off, it more so has to do with the setup at hand. And if you've been following this closely, you would know that wouldn't take a lot for this to happen. If you were to look at this and go, the surface map changed the way it would, you'd be like, oh yeah, it's really not that major. Is it a notable change? Absolutely, because for what we said, what happens at the upper levels has an even more notable impact on the surface. However, you wouldn't think that impacts the surface map like that. See the difference there? And I'm not even sure that does it justice for really how much. That does it more justice. So that change over the upper levels makes that hundreds of miles shift in the precipitation map. You can also see on the precipitation map, this is not the North Stream eroded, this is the North Stream getting wrapped up in between, which suggests if you were to see more of that, you could see more of a latitude gain as well with the northern precip shield. There's a lot that suggests the northern shield can jump further north than what precip shield maps or what precipitation maps suggest at the moment. There's a good amount. There really is a lot, in my opinion, supporting that, regardless of how strong the main QPF shield is. Regardless of that. Now, here's something I'm not going to love about the Euro AI is, and the AI guidance in general, not the Euro AI, is phasing is a very complex process for models to fully depict how it's going to happen. I'm not sure at this resolution that it will do the most effective job. So far, what the Euro AI has done better is showing where the pieces are and going to happen. That's one thing the Euro AI is going to do well, or at least has done better to this point, is showing where the pieces are going to happen. Hence, it's going to give a more accurate depiction. However, phasing is a very tricky process for models to fully pinpoint, even just hours out, even within 24 hours. So keep that in mind, that the surface map you see on the Euro AI in the AI GFS is probably not going to be all that perfect if I had to guess. Another thing we always like to point out is believe me, I've been watching this and I really liked the where the trend we've done now, this is not a model trend, this is an actual trend of the atmosphere. So people use the word trend like it's going out of style oftentimes. Take a look at your gradient. Very interesting. You can see that this was not, you see the C shape you have here almost. This was a little flatter. And now, over the past week or so, this gradient has become a little bit more of a northern push. But notice, still relatively close to the benchmark is where it eventually flattens out a little bit. So right now, you have models suggesting that we're going to have a low track closer to the Gulf Stream, but still a precip shield that could even extend some accumulation back into here if you were looking at just guidance alone. Or are we going to see potentially, at a minimum, some tug because of where the upper level energy is moving through on a low track that's maybe closer to that gradient? Hence, that would allow a much, much different process to take place. That would probably be, excuse me, a much more notable snowstorm than what you even see now on guidance. And I honestly don't think we're at the point to discuss like ratios or marginal temps or stuff like that. We're not really close enough. That you can say you'll probably have some sort of CAD signature in place as well. If I had to guess. Yeah, you'll have a CAD signature in place. So we've discussed this the entire time. With the CAD in place, and the snowpack in place, you're going to hold surface temps probably better than what model guidance even shows at this point. Model guidance was not this cold, I'm telling you, even just like 5 days ago. There was really some adjustments on the Euro AI. I wonder if it may not be that different from yesterday, but it was at least several days ago. It was notably different. And you'll just, even with the machine learning, you just see adjustments with how it holds with the surface temps. There's your surface map. That will not be super accurate. I wonder, you see that initial low, if you do get a low to form that far north, I wonder if it's gonna I wonder the pull on that northern gradient it will have. I wonder. Well, eventually the storm will be going out to sea, so you would be correct. But there's going to be some impacts regardless. So this is not, in my opinion, there's going to be some sort of impacts with this. So this is not. I really and don't take offense to this, Rapala. I really despise the way out to sea gets used. I think it's one of the most cliche. I think it's one of the just easiest things. I think it's a lazy way at times to kind of describe what's going to happen. But don't let's not turn it into black and white, out to sea or not out to sea. Let's turn it into what are the impacts? What's going to happen? That's what I like to focus on. It's easy to get caught up in specifics of things or to get caught up in the broad scheme of general, narratives and stuff. Let's let's break down the specifics of impacts. That's what I'm invested in. Um, and so that's kind of where my thought process uh, relies upon, or lies upon, however it's late. But the system doesn't need to ride up the coast to produce notable snowfall. Um, the system doesn't need to do that, as we were just discussing. You don't need a low pressure track to be inside the benchmark to get a notable snowfall event with this one. It's not that kind of system. It's a warm air advection event that has a northern stream component that's going to tug on the system, and so and as a result, you'll have a precipitation shield that will be able to expand notably north, and then at that point, it's finding out where exactly that rain snow line is, regardless of how much snow or how much precipitation. Um, it's more than just does it hit or miss. I know that's what I know that's what the thumbnail is, but you all know that the thumbnail is the thumbnail, and we're not even we don't clickbait the thumbnail like some do. We try to be the non we try to stay away from that section of the weather community on the YouTube section. We try not to lie on the thumbnail. Um, because it's pretty easy to do that, and you get more clicks, you get more views, but I care a little bit more about the credibility. I mean, Pennsylvania is a big state, so it depends on where you live. Um, keep that in mind. Joe, whether it's not the best question to ask. This will phase. Question is when, how soon, and what the specifics of the phase look like. You gotta keep that in mind. Again, if you don't mind hitting a like, that's also very helpful. I know we do have a decent amount in here right now, not crazy, but so if you don't mind hitting a like, that is very helpful. Easy way to support without doing too much. But let's take a look at the ensembles here, and then I'll try to contextualize it into some of my thoughts. Interesting. And I think the ensembles look a little bit more interesting. The northern stream violates physics. I don't know the context of it. I don't know how he said it. So I'm not gonna try to. I'm not gonna try to I know that's an easy. That's a layup to try to crap on someone else. Not that maybe that you were trying to intend to do that, but I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna give you the assist there, Liam. Not that you know what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to make it seem like evil or anything, but the northern. All I'll say is the northern stream is complicated with this system. It's very complicated. Let's see how this compares to the operational. It's very close. It's very close. I'm honestly surprised. I'm honestly surprised there isn't more spread in the ensembles for the kind of system this is. I'm surprised the ensemble is that, which doesn't give the most amount of hope. And not in the sense, doesn't give me the most amount of hope that the ensemble is performing accurately. And because I don't want an ensemble that's just going to chase the operational. Like if the ensemble were to be like make it like a 75-mile jump north within the next 6 to 12 hours, that's not productive. That's the exact opposite point of the ensembles. I feel like that's what the ensembles turned into at this point. Just reflections of the operational. I don't want that from the ensemble. I want you to show me all that could happen. That's your job as the ensemble unit, all those members. And so I don't know if it takes updates potentially for the ensembles. I know a good amount about models, but not the most. So I would love potentially if we could update some of this, like because the ensembles don't work like ensembles. They work like operationals at this point. Now, there was some spread that you could pick apart earlier this week, but then you just see them. They tick the direction of the operationals almost every single time. And like notably, to almost reflect exactly with the operational. I don't want that. I want an ensemble unit that's going to show me what could happen. And then if there's so many that are showing something different from the operational, or enough, so to say, then that helps provide a decent answer. Now, I don't just want different to be different, but I'm tired of the ensembles working as operationals. It defeats the purpose. Now, it's not going to be 10-1, but there's basically here's basically your spread on the ensemble right now. We have some through here, but that might be from tonight as well. That's basically it. But what if this shifts again? What if this shifts again? So then now it's hard to say what you're using on the ensemble spread. Because that was 6Z. And now that's 8. You see that's 0Z. And now you have a further north precip shield. Now precip shield actually not all that different here, but it's pretty much your guidelines. But what if this wasn't the so it's like if you're just gonna if you want to allow people to start using the ensembles and the models to forecast, which again we don't recommend, but certainly would help because it doesn't seem like doesn't seem like the matter regardless now. Just going to have meteorologists and people that rely on these. But in my opinion, the operational and the ensemble looks notably improved, in my opinion, regardless of how much it's reflected at the surface, the upper levels. So keep that in mind. And as you note about the resolution, it's a little tricky. I'm not going to put out a threat map tonight either. I'm not confident enough. I'm ballsy. I'm not that ballsy for at least the moment. I don't have a productive. I don't have a clear enough cut thought in mind. Now, I mean, I could. I could make something, but it wouldn't. It wouldn't be so moving to be like. It would say this is the area that I should be on watch for accumulating snow. That's really all it would be. So it wouldn't, provide that much altering data than what we're already talking about. I don't think so. I don't think so, Liam. Now, have they been good? No. But there's some bad there's some bad modeling a lot of past windows. So they're really not as bad as many. They're just misused. They're really more misused than anything else. If we had less people expecting models to be the forecast in a tool, they would we'd have forecasts conveyed so much better, so much better. I don't know what's happened to the fact that I don't want to play this game, but screw it. I'm gonna say what's on my mind. I don't know how, for me, someone that's only taken atmospheric science classes and climate classes, um, let's see, climate classes, climate change classes, meteorology classes. We've taken a fair amount, but we never got a degree. Someone who's taken a fair amount, but never got a degree, not even close, compared to someone who has years and years and years and years of studying in college, high level, doing the math, the physics required, all that I said, I'm just going to learn it for what it is. I don't understand how, once you've done that, there's this reliance on weather models and this posting of weather models as if they are so much better and smarter than the mind that you've created for the last 4 to 8 to 10 plus years now. I don't understand that. I'm just not capable of fully understanding what you see on this model that suggests that it is going to give a better forecast than what you could if you decided to break it down in depth and look at all the pieces on the table. I don't get it, personally. Not many understand how grueling it is to get a meteorology degree. It is a grueling, grueling process to understand the dynamics of the atmosphere, do the math, do the science required. It's so grueling to take the time to do all of that and then not apply it. I can't fathom it. I can't. I struggle. I struggle with it. I mean, me and those of you that I'm sure some of you came here from it, but me and Gerald and I talk about it all the time. Well, all we talked about it so many times. It's something. It's hard to comprehend. It's hard to comprehend. It's frustrating too because so many bright minds. We have the best of the best minds currently that aren't being applied. It's a disservice to yourself if you're not using it. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars spent on meteorology school, and you're just going to do what? Just look at a model and say that's what's going to happen? Especially if you're like over like 35, 40, 45 years old, like the amount of experience you have, you couldn't first rely on weather models the way you can now. I can't fathom it. I just can't. I can understand it partially. The lore, the allure, sorry, the allure that models have, but again, weather models, not SI cover ones. The point is you got to use the brain. The brain is key, and it is so much better than what the weather models will do if you keep the backlog of knowledge. The key is, though, you have to consistently apply yourself with it. Because once you start doing that, you start testing your mind. You start creating your own backlog of information on how to forecast. without weather models, or actually with models, but with context of what the weather model was showing. And once you start creating that context and you start applying it over and over and over again, it's I'm watching a lot of Star Wars right now, so it's imagine a droid with this backlog of information of all these places they've gone, all these things they've done, all these experiences, and this helps form you to not only the person you are, but the forecaster you are as well. This is a part of life, and it's a part of forecasting. Um, that is how you create forecasts, not by weather models. Weather models are a great tool. They're fantastic. I look at them every 6 hours a lot of times, like all of you are the dopes, proudly. I say dopes with endearment in this case, not what you would think. I love them. I think they're fantastic. I love looking at them. I just, I like to use my brain. It's not the best brain in the world, definitely not, but I like to think it can do some stuff decently, solidly, hopefully, and just keep improving it. We're still a youngin in the game relative to how long we've experienced. Now, we've lived a good amount. We've lived a good amount of life, not an insane amount, but the amount of life we lived to amount that most when they get started. I was a late bloomer to this stuff, to in terms of the science of it. Late bloomer. You have these kids now that are 13, 14, 15 years old talking to you about atmospheric dynamics. Jeez. I was just measuring snowstorms at that age. I wasn't doing much other than that. Okay, let's read some chat. That's why AI will never replace human forecasters. Be careful on that, Liam. We'll start disrespecting AI. It's going to take names once it takes over. I truly do believe that AI is the future weather forecasting, and it will only get more and more optimized. But also, it will take some time until whenever the renaissance of increasing observations will be. That will be the best thing we can do. Weather models really aren't as bad as many people think they are. It's just you got to give it all the right information during that process as well. Um that's like giving directions to somebody and then leaving out. If you leave out like three parts of the directions, like let's like then there's missing information there, and then you're gonna get to one point and you're gonna be like, I don't know where to go now. So I'm gonna do this off script thing here, and then I'm gonna just keep going along with what the rest of the directions are, and hopefully I get there. Well, that's not gonna work out, is it? if you're missing if you're missing some data points, that's not gonna help. You're not gonna be able to complete the directions. And so we got to keep that in mind too for model guidances. The more you limit the observations you get, the harder it is going to be for the model to do its job. So keep that in mind. If the forecast goes bad, you can blame the model. It's also lazy, sloppy forecasting. Yes, I see it all the time. Models changed. We're now seeing the trend. Actually, you're not seeing the trend. You're seeing the trend on models. The storm hasn't moved. The storm has been progressing the way it was going to the whole entire time. It's how you forecast it. Are you just going to say the model changed? Well, is the model the forecast? Last I checked, you're the forecaster, not the model. People are relying on you to give them the forecast. That's the reason they're watching you at 11 o'clock at night or 6, 7 a.m. in the morning. That's the reason they're tuning in to you at that moment. Regardless if it's by accident or whatever, people are clicking on your channel because they came for your forecast, not for what model's forecast is. Now, some people just do that. Some people find channels that people tell them what the models are showing. And that's fine. They can do that all they want. This is not that channel. This is not that. And you know what you'll find is eventually people will be like, This is not necessarily adding up and being accurate. So I'm kind of going to look for something else over time. And you realize you're being swindled. You don't just keep going back to the swindler, so to say. And then we track more. It seems like I don't think we're quite done yet. It seems like the signal is only increasing on model guidance at this point, and it kind of lines up. So the reason why was kind of interested in this, and it's using model guidance, but not the specific output is now we're just continuing to lock in. Seems like confluence pieces that wrap up somewhere here, and what you do is now just because you don't have a massive favorable PNA, that doesn't mean you still can't favorable, quote unquote. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean you still won't be able to create a pattern that could produce notable snowfall, because now you're going to be pumping a ridge. So sorry, southeast. Not going to work out in mid February. But what you will do is you'll still have cold air pressing in from the north, albeit not an insane Arctic source, at least to start. And you'll have warm air pumping from the south, and then you'll create a baroclinic zone, and you'll probably get some overrunning precip. We'll do another warm air advection, so look for a last-second northern jump on that, in theory. And then however well the energy consolidates, that will define how big in the specifics of the system you get next week. And then beyond that, we start looking at another Bering Strait connection. And this would be around this time frame to this time frame, so beyond probably 24th to 3rd, something like that. I think it was February 10th is when I was looking at it, around there. So usually about 15 to 21 days after that, roughly. So 14 or whatever, February 9th or 10th, roughly. So that's what's in store for beyond. Winter's far from over. Had someone comment, can you start talking about spring? I was like, sorry, can't do that. Winter is not over yet. And if we go off anything from the past as well, this suggests that winter is definitely not over if we're going on what's happened so far this winter. So keep that in mind. You and my man Will C. Weather Willie have taught me the most about winter weather. Both don't have met degrees. Yeah. Will is great because he breaks down the meteorology. He probably uses models even a little bit more than I do, specific forecasting, to be honest. But he creates his own thoughts about patterns, and he uses. I think he is the near perfect embodiment of someone. If you're going to use weather models as much, I mean, we probably use them. Probably I may use it more than him, but just maybe in slightly different contexts. I go a little bit more off, especially over the past couple of years, especially this winter itself, satellite itself. And then as we get closer, I love short range guidance for soundings. Now, there's some danger in that, and because if the specifics or the setup are way off, there's some danger in relying on that, and so that gets a little bit tricky. But there's not much that's going to provide a better idea available. I mean, you really have to do some insane computations if you're going to try to create your own future potential soundings. So there's only so much you can do off that. So we're kind of in a tricky spot sometimes, just based on the information available. That's near impossible to be able to pinpoint exactly. Ratio is different from creating your own sounding. That's impossible. I'm hoping we can get to the point where eventually short range guidance can be so much improved that can help. But But I would love if Tidbits could give us RGM soundings. That'd be fantastic. I feel like so. I hope at some point we can get that. But, yeah, he uses the models in a way that should be just identify. He uses models and he basically predicts models. What he does versus saying this is what the model shows and this is my forecast based off because of what it shows. That's the danger of the weather models that many have fallen into the epidemic of. We've assumed that weather models are so much better than the human mind at forecasting that we just assume they must be right. Take a look at the Euro Ensemble. And let's take a look at the GIF. See the trend is a more favorable stream interaction. But notice the length. Notice the length here from the North Stream to the Southern Stream, which means really anywhere along that axis, technically, you can get a phase. But within reason, given the timing and the location of where the pieces currently are, you can only do so much within reason. However, you have this whole axis here potentially for these two pieces to come together. Also, where does the low exactly pop initially? That defines a lot of things. Where exactly does the low pressure pop on the stream? Like the specifics of the surface map, I'm telling you, are going to be complete bull shiitake. I wanted to almost say the full thing on screen, but I won't. Bull shiitake. That's what we're going to go with. They will not. They will not be accurate for the specifics. I'm telling you right now, this will be almost a nowcast with the specifics of the precip shield and where exactly the low pressure forms, where exactly that rain snow line is. It will be almost a nowcast. This is near impossible for model guidance to accurately depict. Uh, you have to keep that in mind with this setup. That you've already seen the changes you have. This is where exactly the low pops, where exactly the heaviest precip forms, how far north the precip shield gets. Model guidance will just keep changing until it happens, regardless of a trend either way. I'll give you a little ASMR again. This might be loud, so I'll pull it a little far away. But that's pretty satisfying, if you ask me. Zevia Zero Sugar Soda. All right. What's the ceiling? It's a tricky question. Very rare do we get this close to an event, and I say the ceiling is fluid. What does Stephen A. like to say? The list is fluid, right? It is not a very well put together ceiling. There's a range of possible scenarios. Uh, this could be a double digit snowstorm. It's very possible that we could be talking about a double digit a swath of a snowstorm here. Your ceiling gets very, very amplified very fast as a result of uh, the exact specifics of the stream interaction. This could easily turn into a borderline blockbuster. It wouldn't be that impossible because of the reasons we discussed. I can show you. There's not going to HR. I have no confidence in the meso guidance right now. These are going to be even worse. Hi, where Chicago? What do you mean, Scott? I'm going to be honest. I am not going to be your go-to Chicago forecaster, but I can give you general. I can give you general ideas on how that would relate in theory, but I am not going to be your best Chicago forecaster, so to say. But this is not. We're not talking about a major Chicago snowstorm here at all whatsoever. No worries. Um, this is not going to be a notable Chicago. I oftentimes focus on the Northeast, Mid Atlantic, and Southeast, um, and I live in New England, so this is the focus of this. Mid Atlantic to New England is where this system has the potential to produce some snowfall, so to say. That's kind of the main focus area with this system. If that wasn't clear enough, we did mention it several times, but most of the people in the chat right now, Scott, are people that are the kind of the diehard weather weenies that have been following the setup very much in depth and are kind of like aware of where we're looking at. But I have to check myself sometimes because um, you know uh, where to look. So uh, okay, thank you for subscribing, Scott. I appreciate it. I'll warn you though, we go in depth. So this is not just a simple hey, this is the weather for this week. That we this is in-depth analysis here. We like to give you kind of the inside behind the meteorological forecasting process works, so to say, um, and give you kind of some insight on what to look at, what a meteorologist or weatherman would be looking at. So keep that in mind. I don't know if I'll make. I am not. I don't think. I don't think I'll make a full man. Uh, but I'll tell you one thing right now. If I were just looking at the zero, I'd be saying that. And yes, Scott, if you have questions, now I do seem. I don't know why, but I do seem to have in a lore, I use this word twice on stream. I'm not sure if I've used it the entire winter before, of people that do not live in the Northeast during Northeast snowstorms, but still like to watch the streams. Um, and so I take a lot of, I am very prideful about that, and that is very much appreciated. We seem to get a good amount of people that when they see that I'm streaming, they like to tune in and listen. Um, we go in depth for those that are just kind of tapping in for a second, wondering, considering. We go in depth. So ask questions. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you hear me say something, you don't understand what I'm looking at, just ask questions. I don't have a problem answering questions about what am I talking about, because oftentimes I skip steps because I've been breaking this down for so long during a stream, or um, a lot of people that tune in already have like a little bit of a gist of the general idea. So keep that in mind if you're a new subscriber or someone just tuning in now for a second, wondering what is this channel about. This is what this channel's about. In-depth details. And then when the snowstorm does get to your area, maybe I can give you some insight that may actually be better than what most people would give you, not because I'm an expert on your area, but because I can look in depth on the stuff and uh, have an idea of the setup and what it looks like for other areas and how it relates to where you live. So just for those that are new. But when I'm looking at this, I would say you're going to get some snow to break out across southern New England here. That's what I would be looking at. I would say you'd be able to get some snow to break out across New York City, southern New England, even some potentially some snow into central New England, just based on 500 millibar. And it does kind of show that, but not to the extent I would say. And this, honestly, this Euro is maybe not the worst depiction of something. Now, I don't even want to say that. I don't even want to. Don't look at the general totals. Don't look at the general totals. Uh, Arthur, I am going to. I have been putting it off since probably like March last year. But I'm gonna do probably at some point a full video or stream on soundings, and I am gonna break it down because I think if we had more people forecasting with soundings, I think we would have less mischief before events. I really do. That snowstorm a week ago at this point, that was a classic example of one. But I lost my train of thought trying to answer your question, Arthur. So I forget what I was gonna say. But yeah, I can look at. I can go back to this. I guess there's not going to be too many. You're not going to get too many answers, but a little bit slower with the northern stream there. But I don't. I honestly, this is just analysis of the model run. This isn't going to mean anything for the specifics of the system. So, but I can give you the analysis. Can do that. But just know you're not going to get too many results from this long range HRR run. Sorry, Panhandle low pressures in the Ohio Valley pressure checks. I'm not sure what exactly you mean by that, but it just looks like a bunch of words put together on my end. But it seems like you had a thought in mind. But if you did want some concrete thoughts, you can go to bgwx.com. No, you can. Oh, I know what I was going to say. I know, and this can kind of. This is for some concrete thoughts. Uh, I think the euro. Um, I don't know what you mean by that, Scott, and I'm not going to try to interpret that, but uh, well, what I was going to say is maybe not the worst idea in the world. Also, another thing, all of you looking at precipitation maps, um, it's not worth it. With some really marginal temps, the rain snow line difference could be like that. It can be very, very fickle, especially for some mid Atlantic people um, into here. Keep that in mind. But something messy, but still like surprise. Like where my thought process is something that would surprise a little bit. Maybe that could overperform, but from expectation, but still not be the cleanest of all interactions possibly. That's kind of where my thought process is at now. Something that you still would be surprised in terms of the output, but still maybe not the cleanest of all cleanest. Just because now it's still not. I want to preface this. There is so many range of scenarios that could still happen based on how my brain sees it now, not just what the model runs are showing. It, and the reason being is just the smallest of changes between how these two interact makes well, don't apologize, Scott. I just should get better. I like to do the best I can to answer everybody's questions, but the smallest of changes make such a notable difference between your southern stream and your northern stream and how these two interact. Huge changes on the surface it makes. And so people want to make final calls, they want to make final determinations, and you're just losing yourself. There's no reward to be had by doing that right now. And it's not out of result of, hey, let's see what models go. It's not about that. It's literally about, it's such a fickle process. It's such a volatile process that it is a disservice to yourself to try to make a final determination. However, the one thing that does still make me skeptical of this being able to do, which goes back to Joe Weather's specific question, um, um, is that do have you do have the fast flow in behind that. Now, if you do time these up perfect enough, you can still get a pretty impressive phase to happen early enough. However, it's a hard thing to explicitly forecast at this point. So, as much pride as a forecaster can take in, trying to make the earliest possible call, it's just not worth it in this one to try to make some specific determination call. And I wish that I could. I wish that I was a good enough forecaster to be able to look at this specifically and be able to give you a specific notable call. However, I'm not good, and I don't think many others are that good as well, even if they are saying otherwise. So, the reason I'm hesitant is the hook part of what of what you're putting in. I don't think you have ill intentions, but uh, I think I know a little bit what you're trying to say with the hook word in terms of how you're phrasing. I'm not going to say the full word, but the Chicago Big Snows come from Oklahoma. You're talking about, yeah, cutters, I think is what you're trying to say, is instead of the other word that moves northeast, just north, and gives us our big snow. That's one way. Another way is you get not too far from the late January system that I know didn't produce the biggest snow. Um, is you get warm air advection events of overrunning precip across the country. Believe it or not, some of the biggest Northeast snowstorms also are Chicago snowstorms. Sometimes I look at when you get the low pressure to do the hooking or the cutting, as many often refer to it as the cut. Is what happens is you have this big dome of high pressure, and it runs into that early on. So then it redevelops offshore, and what you get is a pretty significant northeast snowstorm. Yeah, I didn't. Not that it was ill intent. It just the wordage was throwing me for a second. I'm surprised they call it a hooking process. Most you usually many of I've seen refer to it as a cutter, so to say. But I guess hooking works as well in a sense. But that is one way it seems that the Midwest could get involved. I'm just not sure if the cold air source will be timed up well enough for you there next week. But and then there certainly seems like there's something to this time frame here. I don't know what would come, but it seems like something. One thing I will say in this kind of pattern, um, is if we do get a notable hit. Now, this won't apply to next week. So it's not regardless. This storm is not the one to do that. If we do get a notable storm that produces a major snowstorm for the Mid-Atlantic Northeast, whatever to come after that, I will say in this current pattern could have a shot to open up for the Southeast. So if there's anybody in here that's rewatching or listening to this at that point, there is a chance. I don't think winter's closed off yet for the Southeast. I know many want to just make early determinations, final calls. To me, that doesn't. It's pointless. You can if you want, and maybe you'll end up being right by luck. But that looks like a pretty active flow pattern that we're heading into. And so if you're able to get one, and then what you hold, you're able to force a little bit more of a suppressive look after. It may not be the biggest of a snowstorm, so to say, but you get really any accumulating snow is a snowstorm in the Southeast. So, well, it's only a nor'easter technically if you have a northeast wind component from the storm. From the storm, technically. Which we really haven't this winter. It's been more thermal advection driven, meaning thermal gradients driving our snowstorms versus notable upper level energy versus strong low pressure systems, riding up the coast. We really haven't had, actually, really almost any of that, so to say. And hence why we really haven't had a true blizzard, so to say. We had, some brief blizzard conditions, for a period on that late January system, but not really one, true blizzard. And that was in North Carolina, and that one didn't even really ride up the coast. And even then, it wasn't for a long duration. So, all clippered out. Yeah. In theory, that North Stream and that Southern Stream will come together at one point to create the blizzard that so many dream of. That's in theory. In theory, doesn't have to, but something I've been leaning towards to happen. I said we were going to get at least one major storm this winter. We got in the one, and I said it would at least 1 to 2, and certainly seems like at some point that second. You mean snowstorms or nor'easters? Nor'easters, again, are a specific thing. It's a northeast wind component that has to happen. I guess in theory, in theory, February, yes. Peak climo for northeast snowstorms is January, February, March, I would say. And you could say December, but it's really not the case anymore. I mean, and one of the biggest things I would say, people want to make it all political and whatever, that the climate does evolve. So you can go on however you want to, but climate change is a real thing. It's just the stipulation, however you put your mind to it, whenever thoughts come to it, oftentimes isn't necessarily required, so to say. But the climate does evolve, and that's one of the biggest things I've noticed is the more dynamic swings, but B, another thing is really the how valuable March versus December has become as a winter month, so to say, in the Northeast. That's one thing I've noticed. And I'm pretty sure there's some research to go along with that as well. But specifically January, February, those tend to be your peak winter months for those snowstorms to happen in the Northeast. Here in this HR run, I'm not. I know I was asked to look at it. You're not going to get too much information here. The run's not even going to complete itself, and you're not going to get too massive of an answers there. There's a lesser stream interaction, but honestly, it's not even. This is not even worth. It's not even worth it. I can tell you the run analysis. Um, did it though, Leo? Did it? I mean, think about how we did it in December. We didn't do it with some major snowstorm. We did it with we did it with a snowstorm. That wasn't even a major one. But actually we had two. We had two. Just one was interior that I got some out of. But yes, I'm just trying to be provocative with the thoughts in a good way. Trying to provoke thought, so to say, and test thought. Really, that's it. Not try to, not try to, play a full devil's advocate. Just trying to push thought is that even though yes, I'm the first one that always has been saying this winter that December was a pretty good December, but it's not like Boxing Day blizzard happened, right? Or it's not like January 25th, 26th happened, uh, in December. For sure, with ground observation around the world, it's a warming climate. Well, from the data we have, yes. I didn't even get into that aspect. I was just talking more so in terms of extreme weather and how it impacts our area, more so than in the wintertime specifically, more so than day to day observations. Absolutely, it was for me. It was a it was a fantastic December for the reasons of knowing that December almost feels like a bonus month at this point, due to how our climate has evolved in New England. I would say it feels like if you get double digit snowfall in December as a total, it feels like you are set up for the rest of the winter now in such a better spot. And we did that. I can go back. I can even screenshot my notes so I can show you guys my seasonal snowfall on the winter. Let's take a peek at Brady's seasonal snowfall. There we go. So that's my winter so far. December. Oh, this was a past one. This was just, don't even get me started. Short range. Listen, please. This was one of those where, hey, I like to rely a little bit on short range meso guidance. I don't like relying on models. It's that I kind of have to. And it did rip. It was 6 inches of snow here. but it was 1 to 3 through here, not 3 to 6 through there. So we had the totals right. We did not have the exact spot right, unfortunately. Fortunately, one of our worst forecasts of the winter, but I'm human for a reason. The one not as good forecast is going to take away from pretty solid here. So we're about 64 inches of snow on the season, which is still below our climatological average, believe it or not, for the winter, but is above average for this point, absolutely, into the winter. Let's see, the month of December was a 12.6, I believe. We had 0.1 on December 31st, I think. So 12.6. So a 12.6 inch December in terms of snowfall is really fantastic, because it just felt like at that point, and the key was this system here. This was the key. Now, I guess you could have done, a couple of 2-inch snowfall events, I guess, to replace that. But really, with the amount you snowed in December, that's kind of what you needed to do. And this was a key one right here. This was a key system, a part of the grand scheme of winter and December, I'd argue, especially for Connecticut. This was essential. This storm right here for Connecticut being an average to above average winter. And then as we progressed, it just stacked. These little events here in early January were fantastic. Everybody, I will never forget the amount of people that put a B in front of itched about the lack of major snow. Just it was 20 from last winter and this winter until January was one of the most brutal places to be on, was social media for Northeast winter weenies. It was brutal. You just couldn't say anything. You couldn't forecast. You couldn't do anything without like 3 to 5 at least different people under your comments going, "Oh, I don't care." Like it's just like, all right, then you don't have to watch. You don't have to look at anything. So that it's just, yeah, yeah. But these are important. I enjoy these. We had some awesome light snow events, and this one, I think one of these was a bust kind of too, still, so to say. One of these I was expecting like another, I think it was this one. I was expecting like another inch on top of that. But such small margins of a bust of a system that don't really matter too much in the grand scheme of things. And then January 17th, this was right before. This was basically one storm, really, technically, or one system, I should say. And you get 10 inches of snowfall in 3 days. Well, that's going to add up. And all of a sudden, we had a snow squall the night after. And then another day later, you get a clipper that overperforms. And then 2 days later, you get a 2-foot snowstorm. So now your winter is set. You guys know what I like to say. Oftentimes, one storm defines your winter. Now, it's never really the case in New England, away from coastal New England. Coastal New England, absolutely. Um, Southern coastal New England, but Boston, Worcester. Well, Boston sometimes a little bit, but Worcester, Hartford, Springfield, Albany, Hudson, even Hudson Valley, besides the lower Hudson Valley, Northeast PA, those places, one storm often does not define your winter. Um, that it takes a little bit. So, but one storm absolutely changes the trajectory of your winter. However, you could remove this one storm and we would still have 40 inches of snow as of February 14th and could easily get to about average. But this is the difference between your winter being average and well above average potentially. So we average about 65 to low 70s based on the 1990 to 2020. So it's basically Worcester minus a little bit is how I come to that seasonal average because I wasn't doing snowfall measurements in the 90s and early 2000s, but um, that's how I come to those conclusions. For those curious, and it's very close to accurate. It's not specific, so I have a range to account for, um, along with based on comparing the decade plus of seasonal measurements I have for where I've lived here as well. So I've not always lived here in this spot in Grafton. I know Liam, you're always jealous of the Grafton band, but I call it the Worcester County Special is what it is. The Worcester Hills and the orographic. You have the key is you have the valley right to our west, and then you have the hills just east of that. And there, right there, is where you have your enhancement of lift oftentimes. And I'm like just on the edge of that in the coastal spots. So I oftentimes get the best of both worlds, but never the best of the best in each setup. So it's kind of a unique thing where I don't always, I tend to not jackpot, but I tend to oftentimes not get left out of a lot of things. And so it helps my spot. And then February, we have ocean enhancement, inverted trough, Arctic front, whatever you want to call it. Whatever you want to call it, it produced almost a foot and a half of snow on the North Shore. Produced almost 16, 17 inches of snow for some spots on the North Shore. Well, I'm supposed to be double your total as well because I live here and you live here. Coastal Connecticut compared to interior Mass is a huge difference. It's all relative to where you live. But this one right here, this was the key for setting the tone for like, all right, it's basically house money the rest of the winter at this point. It's basically almost a given, regardless of any winter, that we would get double digit snowfall for the rest of the winter. So you like at this point we know we're getting to at least 70 inches of snow likely on the winter, regardless of any winter, regardless of how bad of a winter. It's basically a given that we get to 70 to 72 ish. Yeah, good luck hopping on my stream, man. I am about as scatterbrained as you get. I'm a tough I'm a tough person to be a part, tough stream to be a part of. Not because of a gatekeeper, but because of my schedule. I wouldn't be able to let you know anytime. All right, let me see what I missed. Arlington 44.5. Arlington, Virginia. Arlington, New York. I forget where you live, Arthur. Again, is it New York? Is it long? Is it New Jersey? I thought it. I forget. That feels like a northeast number. Although Virginia has had a great winter. Virginia's had a fantastic winter. Oh, Massachusetts. How did I not know you were in Massachusetts? I thought I did. Could work with you one time. Uh, you're about 38 on average for Chicago, Scott. Yeah, that makes sense. Are you a suburb of Chicago or are you in Chicago, the city? Because that, from a lake effect perspective, that's a huge difference. Huge difference. Because Chicago is one of the worst place lake effect cities. It really is. It's one of the worst place along. I forget what Great Lakes. I should know that. I should know that. I mean, I know you got Superior, Huron, whatever. You got. I know more so the New York lakes better, Ontario and Erie, better than the other ones, but those make a difference. 60 miles southwest of Chicago, so that is a pretty notable difference right there. So you're not able to tap into the lake effect as much. So you're what? Probably here, maybe here. I gotta say, some of your traffic in the morning in Chicago Metro is one of the worst I've ever seen. With all the construction, especially near the airport that's going on right now. Brutal. I was there in the summer. Brutal. I think our Clipper is moving through right now. I'm looking on radar. I'm not sure how much of it is making it to the ground, but I did notice New York City. You could get a coating tonight. You could get a coating to half inch. So keep an eye on that. Really, a lot of places could get a coating to an inch tonight. So keep an eye. Don't be surprised if you wake up in the morning and there's a coating, but it probably is just going to melt by the end of the day. To be honest, because once you get to mid February, especially, you basically you melt at that point because of the sun angle. However, the sun angle doesn't it makes more of a deal for melting snow than it does for not allowing snow to accumulate. Anytime you're heavily snowing, by the way, moderately snowing, it's going to accumulate. It's when you're light snowing that, hey, maybe, but even then, you probably weren't accumulating that much anyways. Well, I'm glad I don't go that way. Not fun. Yeah, you're probably. I mean, heck, you're probably out towards even close to Bloomington. Probably. I mean, you're a good amount from Chicago. So you probably did get some decent snowfall from that late January system, right? If you were out here. Well, are you due southwest or are you like south southwest? That can make a difference too, especially lake effect. That makes a huge difference. The state of Illinois, like this part of Illinois and Indiana, in terms of lake effect, notable differences. Notable differences. Telling you, Chicago strategically placed where it is for a reason. At some point, the locals there, as they were building that city, wanted to build it somewhere probably away from the heaviest lake effect. Um, it's probably built strategically where it is for a reason. I bet the Grafton special is one more appearance. I don't know. But, I mean, it's been a good winter for me, but it's really, you know what it has been? It's been the North Shore. That's the winter it has been. I uh, I think I had a couple advantages from our man Peter over there, Liam, out in Gloucester, but just lately he's been running away with it. Between what the 27 that he had, that other storm, and you know, a snowboarder clear it. You just measure the whole entire event. So it snowed out. He probably had over 30 on that one. That's a whole nother. People could debate however they. For me, I just do what the spotter when the spotter class told me to do. That's how I measure it. I get some people saying why they get annoyed with my measurements. I get the snowboard. I clear it every 6 hours. I take an average of the measurements as well, and whatever pops. I just try to do what the spotter class recommended. Reported 66 and 61. I believe the 66 more than the 61, to be honest. Oh wow, Arthur, thank you so much for the 50 cent. Uh, Obviously not 50 cent, 50 bucks. Get some rest. You will need it. Next week we'll be busy. Well, thank you for manifesting that. Yeah, well. So the weekends are not. It's during the week where just like anybody else, I have stuff I have to take care of as well. So I will. I get to sleep in tomorrow. But it's been like 100 minutes that we've been streaming for, so I'll go for a little bit longer, just a little bit, and then we'll call it. You know what it is. I do what the spotter class said too. I have 35.5. I'm just trying to get. Listen, I'm trying to get the research. However the process they came along to say that's how the snowfall total is measured. I'm not usually just a follow orders guy, but again, also Arthur, thank you so much for if you all would like Arthur's super chat, that'd be to show him some support. That'd be awesome because it's not necessary at all to donate what he does, but um, Arthur has been pretty consistent for being a member. So hopefully we can be a good spot. Found another Massachusetts person to provide a Massachusetts forecast. So thank you, my man. But yeah, I'm not the biggest yes man ever, but that's the best way to accurately, however we can best accurately measure the snowfall. That's what I'm down for. Um, yeah, that's a difficult part of making my snow maps as well, is because I have to account for, are people gonna just, I have to account for that. A lot of measurements that are come in are gonna be, especially over a long duration storm, are gonna be people just, taking the snow depth measurement, basically, even if it's a new snow depth measurement. That's really tricky. That's really tricky. So I do have to try to account for that when I make it. And this is a massive NAM change. Holy crap. That's a massive NAM change. Look at the North Stream. This is going to be an earlier phase here. That is something I should research more, though. I mean, listen, I took the spotter class. I got the spotter certification. Here's another thing. I don't think there's going to be any national visitors from Boston watching this. They shadow ban my snowfall totals so much they do it. And I'm like, I provide you the images. You can clearly see how I'm taking my measurements. You can see it's like not like a slanted rule or anything. You can clearly see the images I send you through the spotter as well. They all the time. I don't like the we're going to decide what isn't and what is for your spotters and your Coco Ross people. Because those are people that you trained, passed tests to certify that they're going to give you accurate measurements. I don't understand how how all the time they like it got out. I think I've said this before. It got to a point where I had to like email them because they stopped reporting my snowfall. This was like years ago, and they still do it. And I work. You guys see how hard I'm measuring during storms like almost every hour, unless I'm finding a point to go to sleep. I work really hard to try to get like good as accurate as possible measurements. I work very hard, and so how much they dismiss my totals a lot of times, it's frustrating from the sense of I'm working really hard to get good totals. I took spotter classes, certified. I'm actually a Kokuras person as well. I just that's really hard. It's really hard to keep up with that. So I don't report that stuff as much anymore. So it's a little frustrating the way that process works a little bit. That they can just decide, hey, your total does not add up, and is what it is. Yeah, I don't know. The reason they said is that this was the reasoning I got is because I happened to be was I think this was 2020 2021, and that was a great winter for where I live. I had 87 inches of snow that winter. You don't just do that on that. You don't just uh, magically make 87 inches of snow happen. You do it out of consistently good winters. Is because I finished top five in my county like five times that winter or something. So my totals had to disregard them because I finished top five like five times or something. And I was like, well, why don't you, do you not like just look where the banding happens in the winter and you can pinpoint that. I was like, just look at the evolution of the storm and go off of that. Sometimes I don't know what to tell you, but that's really out of my control. So I can just really do my own thing. And at this point, I have enough people that I have enough people that follow me to the point where like they kind of know how much snow I get. So I don't care about the following as much as other people as much as other people like or may, but that is one advantage is that you know people can get to see how much snow happens in the good old Worcester County, Massachusetts. With Boston, Liam, it's Rob Macedo, I think is how you pronounce his last name. Unbelievable work he does. I'm not even sure it's his full time job, but he does the box one. I'm not sure if any other National Weather Service office does that. And he takes in all these reports and he puts them basically to a database for the National Weather Service to just look at and take. Um, he compiles all of these reports uh, and it's very, very, very helpful. Yes, Worcester County, Worcester. No worries. Snow is always Snow has melted, measuring grass blades. Currently snowed up. I got to check. It's been a couple days, so we've melted probably just a little bit, but the banks are still pretty high here. The snow's not going for a long time. Sometimes. Well, I will never. Uh, I will never dish too many of the National Weather Service people because they do it's a really important job they do. And the more important thing, to be honest, they do is the warning. The warning service is the most important part. And there's nobody else that can do what they do and take their place and how valuable it is. So I would keep that in mind. Anybody that does plan to try to crap on the Weather Service, not saying anybody in here is trying to, is that um, there are people, there are meteorologists behind those forecasts that um, do make forecasts that do matter. But that doesn't mean you have to agree with what the forecasting thoughts are put out. Um, I do sometimes wish that, hey, you have all those bright minds. How about you create a forecasting map process there and not just use the HREF blend, a National Weather Service blend, or whatever, and you know try to put together. Let's use your bright minds and put out a decent forecast. Not that it isn't all sometimes, but it's just it changes with the model runs, whatever they have with the model runs show. It's a different blend than what your weather app will show, but still. It's a fallback on the models. So this is interesting. This is one where you're going to pull in more here, but you notice still the separation between your southern stream and your northern stream, main two, is evident. What I want to see here is as we get closer, which is funny because we're not so far off, is how closed off is this southern port? How much gravitas is this going to have? How much pull can the main part of the southern board get into the system? Because the further north it is, the northern extent, the push is going to get more pulled into the northern stream. But B, also, there will be less of it will force more of a consolidation of the precip shield and the precip heavier QPF on the northern side. It will force it more towards the northern side versus the southern side. Because these are two distributions of upper level energy that are working with and against each other in a sense until they really start notably coming together for a stream interaction. The forecast discussions, yes, Scott. I don't read those as much anymore, just because like I don't really. There's not much for me to gain, to be honest. A lot of times, um, and I don't mean that to say like I'm better. It's just that like I'm. It's very often that I have not looked at an angle at this point um, that I haven't seen on from my short list of people on social media that I had created. No longer use the timeline or that I've looked at myself. And I find that the forecaster discussion, at least for our local area, only provides so much more value than what I'm looking at. Not sure if I phrased that the best way, but hopefully you get the gist. The NAM is there. Read. I do not. I used to more often. I do not at this point. Um, well, we know the precip is going to be on this model run is going to be pulling more, at least a little bit. I'll try to get some shut items. The heat is on so well. My laptop is very hot, and it's on my lap right on my legs, and between that and the heat, and it's hard. I still have the chills, so I've literally had the chills for over a month now. So I've been living with chills basically. Priya making a late appearance onto the stream. We're watching the NAM. There's not going to be too much information that is going to be pulled from this model run, but in the North Stream component is rather interesting onto this model run. I'll look at something else. Here's one thing I will say is if 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 both parts of our northern piece are more favorable position, you can potentially. I'm slowing it down because I want to. A, I'm scorching hot right now. But B, you would potentially force a little bit less of a push on this piece and potentially give it more time for these two to come together. Maybe a little bit less of a. Remember we were talking about the progressiveness of in behind, which really forces more of a threading of the needle. You could force a little bit less threading of the needle to be required if both parts of your northern stream were in a more favorable position. Something that just comes to mind. But this is going to be definitely more interesting than the last run. See, how is this compared to this? It's hard to say. It's so smooth. It's so smoothed out. Seems like it's going to be. Hold up. It's a little bit different. So it's hard if every model guidance is handling what pieces on the table specifically look like. That's also tough to pinpoint. Then how are these going to interact? Sorry, I don't have too much words on that. I'm almost I've pretty much hit my max here in terms of my brain capacity. So after this NAM run, this is going to be it for me. I don't have any more brain left to give here for you all to zap and take. Still wonder how models are handling that piece right there. I don't know if the GFS is so outrageous. I think it just highlights what we've been talking about. GFS and the NAM are now definitely closer. Seems like this NAM run might be closer to that 0Z GFS. And I wonder what the NAM will do compared to the GFS. More. Kylo Ren. Still disappoints me. The sequel. Some may like them. I don't think they're bad movies. I just in terms of Star Wars. Doesn't follow the true Star Wars story, in my opinion. Ruins the canon for me, but well, let's hope with new leadership in Disney that we can get some changes. I always know the NAM likes to take its sweet old time. So I'm moving things along here. My favorite winter so far. I think you know that answer, Liam. It has to be 2015 for me. There's no other logical answer for me. I think it just can't be. I'd have to go back and look, but I'm almost certain it was over 100 inches of snow. I'd rather have the NAM than this piece of whatever this is. Although that isn't gonna do that's phasing right there. Look at that difference. 0Z to 06. Now that's a key part too. You got to get some lean back here with this northern stream, so that you can get a northern push of southern stream precipitation. In order to get that, you can't just have you got to have some lean back with the northern stream so that you can get that southern stream to get out in front a little bit so that you can get, like we said, that precipitation to get back. No, not 2011 here. Yeah, I wasn't even measuring that much in 2011, to be honest. And then 2012 was a winner to forget. And then 2013 was good. 2014 was decent. 2015 was good. 2016 was not. 2016 was not good, even though there was one great storm. We only got about 5 from that. 2017 was decent. 2018 was one big stretch, really, along with a January blizzard, and then 2019 was forgettable. 2020 was forgettable. 2021 was fantastic. Unconventional a little bit, but fantastic. 2022 was pretty much one January. It was basically just January and February being decent. And then 2023 was just that January storm. And then that March storm that I just Never have been. I'm not sure there's too many March storms I've ever been too much more annoyed with than that one. There's nothing like being about 10 miles away from 2 feet of snow. Um, 2024, not much to take away from that winter. 2025, okay, but still not great. Still below average snowfall. Decent winter, snowfall wise though. Still about over 20 inches below average. And then this winter has been fantastic. Favorite snowstorm, March 20, not March, although March 2015 was good. It has to be January 26th, 27th, 2015. Blizzard of 2015. 32, 33 inches of snow. We got death banded. What in the world do we got going on here? That precip map does not reflect what the upper level should be, in my opinion. But it's a separate conversation. All right, Nam. That's certainly different. Hello there. Hello, Nam. There you go, people. Oh, it's probably a wet snow, but snow is snow. 36. I've actually never seen a 3 foot snowstorm in person. So the day that happens, I said I will. You'll get this to see me in the flesh. But 1995, 107 spread out. Not the big dump of 2015. 1996 was a really good winter as well here in Massachusetts. 2001 was really good. 2001 is actually one of the connections. What do we call it? Analogs. 2001 is one of the better analogs for this winter. And I'm not going to look at analogs right now. I'm nearly toast. Kind of just letting this last few frames of the name roll out before I get my much needed sleep. But 2014 was another. 2014 has been the main analog that has proved pretty solid for this winter at this point. So here's something that I'm going to tell you with this event ahead of time. We talked about this, but this was an event where you could get a northern push of precip and the warm air advection as a result, and that could allow banding. You see how it's there's not really one consolidated area right here. It's kind of waves pushed out, and this is the better cold air. The further north you go, is you get enough to get out in front. You could allow better consolidation of those dynamics out in front as well. And as a result, well, it's just more snow. So keep an eye on that. There's a lot that suggests that precipitation could be able to find its way further north than what you see on some of these surface maps. So keep that in mind. But this is still definitely not a clean whatsoever. You see how these two pieces are not even at the same longitude here? They're not still quite in the right spot. Just based on the current surface map, if you were looking at this verbatim. But still no, that's now pretty close to what the Euro AI shows. Take a look. See that? Euro AI is shows a little bit cleaner of a stream interaction. It's a little bit further back. I still find it so fascinating how I know it's fickle, but still find it fascinating how far off all of these model runs are with the upper level evolution. Like even like I know the surface map looks a little similar, but oh, that's not going to do it. that ain't going to do it. All right, let's slide it back. See, like I know it's smoothed out, but you can clearly see that that's still not as smooth. And so this is why that's one thing I question is the surface map of the Euro AI. Or not the Euro AI, the AI models in general. As a result of that, the lack of resolution on the grid scale. This one's just similar. The NAM's just close to the GFS is really all that is. We kind of talked about that. So it's probably going to be close to that, and it is. Which if this is coming further, what's the GFS going to look like then? Or is it just the NAM coming better into place with other guidance? You notice how the Euro AI hasn't really like jumped so far north over the past like 3 or 4 runs or so. Just came in a better line. Now that doesn't mean it still can't. Even though the Euro AIs might be a little bit better than other guidance, just a little bit, not a ton, but a little bit. Enough to make a difference for some setups, potentially this one. This is still a pretty fickle process. And like we said, jumps on the upper level map have even larger proportional changes on the surface map. And then we keep an eye on this here next Wednesday, Thursday. And then that looks interesting. This time frame here. This was a generational. Was it 18 or was it 12? This was one of the best Euro AI runs I've ever seen before. Take a look at this. Oof. Oof. Boy, oh boy. I would dream of that. Liam, you were saying 10 to 1, 36 inches? Well, this is that right here. Look at that. Just a cold air infused into the setup, into the occlusion as well. Anytime you can get cold air to wrap around as a result of the occlusion, oh, you don't get those to happen very often. And then you even get like a coastal redevelopment. Look at that. There's your 30 plus 10 to 1 right there. So that was your 12s. That was your 12s. Hugo or Ugo. I want to say it properly, but my thoughts for Philly. Is that I don't. It's hard to have concrete thoughts right now. be on the lookout for for some rain or accumulating snow potential. It's a very tough, yeah, or it could be both too. That's a very it's a very tough call in general for thoughts, but I'll give you the general idea. Is that there's going to be some snow with this, I think, at a minimum. The question is where and how much. And this is the reason why I can't give you as good of an answer as I usually can on specifics. Is, as we've been discussing, this Nord Stream and how it interacts. I'm going to sneeze here in a second, so don't mind if you hear that. Bless me. Um, is that how this comes together? Any little changes with this has a huge change on the surface. And that's tough to know 2 to 3 days out. That really is. It's really tough to know. And I'll phrase it as accumulating snow is possible in Philly. Is possible. Could it be a snowstorm? It could be. It could be, but that's why make a call that I don't have to. At least give you this scenarios possible, so that you're not caught off guard. But if I could, I would. You all know, if I'm confident, I'll make the determinations. I'm just not at this point. But you all know I've done it. Especially there's been plenty of times when model guidance hasn't shown it, and I've been confident in a certain solution. Go back to January 19th. I was on a near island. I think Will was near with me as well, but I was alone, and similar to this setup here. I mean, I don't think there was too many still buying that this setup could happen, and sure enough, I was like, well, let's see it through to the end here. It's pretty volatile North Stream, so still a range of solutions that could happen here. Sure enough, bada bing, bada boom. You get what you get. And I don't think many will be upset by the changes happening. Unless you don't like snow, then you're not going to enjoy this. Yeah, you're welcome, Hugo. Does JT come back? March 1st, Liam, I don't know if you noticed, Celtics Sixers. I had some of my family tell me this today. Celtics Sixers got flexed as a primetime game. They took off Thunder Mavericks. They took off SGA Cooper Flag to put Celtics Sixers. Sixers are, decent, but come on, why are we doing that? It's a home game for the Celtics too. I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe it's later, but flexed it for a reason. I want to look at one last thing. Well, actually, I'll give you guys a little bit of fun. Ensemble means impressive. It's actually higher the previous run, which is interesting. Which lets you know the stress. But that was the previous, that was like, how many hours ago? 9? Don't move that. I would like to guarantee. It's tough. On paper, yes, but it's tricky figuring out the Celtics sometimes. Depends on how they come back with Jason. It depends on how they come back. But I wanted to look at this. Tatum won't be the same. No, you're just trolling. You're just trolling, Priya. You're just trolling. He will definitely be Jason Tatum again. Question is will it be this year? That's the only question. It's not if, it's when with him. So but I want to look beyond too. Look at the signal. It's that fairly strong signal there that we're going to be tracking again next week. So it's just 5 days out. Get away from the specific totals. We're talking about tracking a system, not how much. I mean, pretty much every model, every ensemble showing. I mean, literally every single one is showing something. There's not one that isn't showing something. Go to 26 through 50. Every single model showing something in that range. I may finally see snow in central Jersey. Well, I know it's been a couple weeks, but let's be honest, Phil. It's been there. There's not really too much for that we can complain about for anybody from from the Carolinas northward. I know DC, it hasn't been your greatest winter, but it hasn't been enough to complain about as if it's been bad. Just because the GFS showed you bullseyeing for a day, that doesn't mean it's been a bad winter and you didn't get it on January. But I know you don't live in DC, Phil, but I'm just talking. I'm almost certain there's DC people out there right now that are like livid about their winter, and they shouldn't be. They need to know where they live. I say that to a lot of people. It's not just DC. I say that to plenty. That you need to know that you need to know the climatology of where you live. That's a critical point. Try to make to people that, hey, you're not going to get a 2016 blizzard every single winter. I don't know why the expectation is. I don't know why every single winter I get mid-Atlantic people tell me about the 2016 snowstorm as if it's gonna happen again this winter, and yet they don't realize your greatest snowstorm of all time is your greatest snowstorm of all time for a reason. Records aren't meant to be broken every year with that, and I wish more people realize that. And they take for granted the snow they do get too. You can't take it for granted. Can't take that for granted. Enjoy your 6.2 inch snowstorm. Enjoy it. It's awesome. Snow is awesome. And then when that massive one does happen, you appreciate it even more. You all don't understand how much I enjoy. It was a little non-traditional, to be honest, how we did it. It wasn't usually it's like that deformation band, and you're in it, and that's how you get your 2-foot snowstorm. It's a little unconventional in a sense where, we did it basically snowing in single digits. It's kind of a weird way to do it, but it did happen. I'm still thinking, I'm still enjoying it for weeks after, guys. It's unbelievable. I could not be enjoying it much more how that happened, and you don't take it for granted. It was a blizzard here too, yeah, not surprised. So Connecticut did fantastic with 2016 blizzard. Same with southeastern Mass and Rhode Island. They did well too, in the islands as well. Block Island must have been a fun spot to be in that storm. Block Island's a pretty cool place, actually. If anybody's wondering for a summertime destination in New England to go, that's not as expensive as Nantucket. That's a pretty good spot to go, in my opinion. Block Island is pretty nice. One of the best sunsets I've ever seen in my life was on the ferry ride to Block Island. It's fantastic. I still have that picture to this day. I love looking at it. It's just the complete horizon of the Atlantic Ocean with the most amazing sunset. Can you spot our snowstorm signal? Even within the long range, you can spot it. All right. I'll take a look at this, and then it's surprisingly not that different though. 10-1 to Kachera. It's a little different, but not so different. Another thing I'll say is, I'm not sure this is a storm or a system I want to be on the southern edge of the snowfall with. Not really a system I want. I really want to be on the north side, to be honest, or in the middle to the north. I want to be more on the north side because this is a warm air advection event. There's a lot of things to suggest that the precip shield will be able to come further north. Whatever, depending on, regardless, whatever the specifics are of the 500 millibar set. Man, a tucked 500 low like that. Hard to believe that couldn't do more damage. All right, that's gonna do it for me. We went on way longer than I even thought we would by about 30-45 minutes. So we'll call it there. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and until next time, maybe tomorrow night, or at least a video tomorrow night, probably regardless.